Welcome to the ChatBlack. This is your host, Shawn Whitsell, and I have a very special guest with us today. I have filmmaker Fredrick Leach. Fredrick, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you having me, man.
No doubt, no doubt. So I want to know about your journey into filmmaking. You have this exciting new film coming up, and we're going to talk about that. It's called Caged Birds. But before we get there, I want to talk about how you got to making your first feature film.
Man, it was a long road. Let me tell you that. So I wasn't a filmmaker growing up. I didn't really have that aspiration. I was an athlete. I was a football player. My goal was to go pro. In college, ended up getting cut from the team. So that dream kind of ended quickly. Ended up taking a couple film classes just for fun because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Ended up loving it. It got a major in film along with history. After graduating college, I still didn't really think film was something I could do. It just didn't seem like something that I could attain. So I planned to go to law school. Ended up taking a couple years off to teach through Teach for America. Would spend my summers in LA just trying to see it, kind of get the lay of the land, just because I really was just drawn to come into Los Angeles. So I finally was just like, why don't I just do it? So I moved to LA in 2015. Didn't have a job or anything, just kind of came out here on faith. About a year in, I got a job working with this company called Black and Sexy TV, founded by Dennis Dortch, kind of based on his film, A Good Day to Be Black and Sexy. That was in Sundance back in the day. And I spent a lot of time there kind of writing, directing, editing, kind of just getting all the skills that I needed. And then in 2018, a friend of mine, Edwin Walker, we decided to step out and do this film, Caged Birds. So took us about a year to get the fundraise, to get the money together. And then we shot August 2019. And now it's about a year and a half later. We finally got it edited, and we're premiering at the Pan-African Film Festival later this month.
Nice, nice. So tell me what inspired give us a synopsis of the film, and then tell me what inspired you in writing.
So the log line of Synopsis is basically 3 Black kids in the suburbs are forced to cover up a murder when a prank against a white bully goes bad. And really what we were going for with this is I'm a big fan of the movie Juice, starring Khalil Kain, among other people. What I really wanted to tell was a story from my perspective growing up in the suburbs, how kind of things were different, for me. I feel like there's a lot of films, especially in the 90s, that dealt with, the idea of being in the hood, trying to get out. And I was like, that's not really my experience. I can't really tell that story. And if I do, it's not going to be right because it's not what I lived. And so I thought it'd be interesting to explore the idea of what's it like in, modern day as a Black kid who is quote unquote made it. Our 2 of our main characters are kids who are doing really well. They're good students. Their parents are well-to-do. And then the 3rd kid is busting from the hood. And it's kind of this idea of how would these kids be treated if they are, well-to-do and they have the privilege of being in the suburbs, but they're still Black? And so we kind of flip this idea on its head. If they actually do commit this crime, it's an accident. But then we kind of look at how these kids are treated differently because they are, well-to-do Black kids. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of a look at suburban racism.
Gotcha. Yeah, you mentioned the Juice connection. That was one of my questions. I noticed on Instagram that you were inspired by Juice. I remember going to see that movie in the 90s at the movie theater, and just how moved I was by it, how much I loved it. So let's talk about, you talked about the connection, but you have Khalil Kain, who is a part of Juice and also a part of Caged Birds. So tell me, how was it getting him to be a part of the project, and then how was it working with him?
It was great all around. Because we kind of were basing our film on Juice, we thought it would be cool to have one of the actual boys from that playing one of the fathers, almost they grew up and, got successful and moved to the suburbs. Now, obviously, Khalil's character doesn't necessarily make it in Juice, but, it's kind of like spiritual sequel. So we didn't have to stick to that. But it was really as simple as just kind of reaching out to some people. My producer, Edwin, knew a couple people, kind of reaching out, friends talking to friends, and we were able to get in contact with him, and he was super cool. He read the script, liked it, and so next thing we knew, he was in Dallas shooting with us. And what can you say? Shooting with him, it's like shooting with a legend. You know what I mean? It's like I was just trying to soak up the wisdom, and he's professional. He came in there, did his thing. We had a couple conversations beforehand about kind of the character and kind of where we wanted to take it, and then he just went in there and did what he did. So, I was just kind of there for the ride.
Nice, nice. So why did you feel it's important for you to make a film like this at this particular time?
Well, I mean, for one, I feel like, in America right now, we see that, the perception of what it is to be black, to be a black man, we're perceived as dangerous, we're perceived as, as criminals, all these different things, negative connotations. And I think it's important right now, especially in Hollywood, to show different portrayals of black men. You know what I mean? Like, there's a whole spectrum of who we can be. Some of us are strong, tough. Some of us are on the other end. You know what I mean? Some of us are rich. Some of us are poor. You know what I mean? So I just think it's important right now in Hollywood that we are telling different types of stories. And I think diversity is a word that's kind of getting thrown around a lot right now. But I find that a lot of times it's just more of the same types of stories. So, if you're a black guy, it's got to be, the hood story, or if you're Hispanic, it's got to be like the cartel story. You know what I mean? So it's just more of that stuff. And it's just kind of like drilling in these ideas of what Black or Hispanic or whatever person of color is supposed to be like. And so for us, it was just like, we wanted to tell a thrilling story that's set with 3 Black kids that aren't from the hood, that, aren't these stereotypes. And we just think it's important to see different types of ourselves on screen.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned you shot in the month of August. How many days did you shoot?
It was 15 days, 85 pages, 15 days. So it was hectic, to say the least.
Yeah. So what were some of the challenges that you encountered shooting your first feature that you may not have expected?
Well, I think for one, it's just kind of the stamina of going for a feature. I shot a lot of shorts and, like 3-4 day shoots maybe at most. And that's fine. But 15 days, you really kind of just got to lock in. And I'm a bit of an introvert. So just kind of like balancing that idea of, how to find energy and still be that leader that you got to be on set every day and kind of infuse that energy was tough. And then, just on a technical level, it's just like when you're shooting that many, we're shooting like 5 to 6 pages a day. It's like, you're just kind of cranking it out and you're just trying to figure out the fastest way to get these things shot. So it's kind of like you're balancing your vision versus like getting everything shot. And so I think, you have this vision when you go in as a director, like, I got to have it just like this. And I think I very quickly learned that to hit my vision, I was gonna have to compromise on certain things. And it's kind of just deciding where that compromise line lies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes perfect sense. So what's something that you learned about yourself or the filmmaking process while shooting this film?
That is a good question. I think one thing that I learned about myself is just there's no one type of director. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like in film school or when you're just watching films, you hear about a certain type of director that's got to be this certain way. Usually it's like the asshole director that's kind of like his way or the highway. And, I think sometimes when you hear those things, you go into it and you kind of like stress yourself out trying to figure out, am I like that? Do I need to be like that? And the more that I've kind of learned, even after shooting Cage Birds and talking to other directors or listening to other directors talk, is like, there's this idea that you kind of just got to figure out on your own, and whatever works for you works for you. And so I feel like a couple of days in, I couldn't stress about that anymore, because it was just like, there was so much going on that like I didn't have the time. And so it's really just figuring out what works for you, and communicating that vision and doing that effectively. So ultimately, I just learned kind of about myself and how I am best at like leading other men and women. And so, it was just, I think you kind of just got to do it, honestly, to kind of figure those things out.
Yeah. So tell me some filmmakers who have inspired you.
Sure. I mean, I can go down the list. Spike obviously is big. Do the Right Thing, Crooklyn. Growing up, he was kind of one of the few Black filmmakers that was really out there that you really heard about, and so obviously him. More recently, Ryan Coogler is a guy that I love. Just even the way he carries himself on set. He's a former athlete, so I kind of feel like I had that connection, and so he's really someone that I kind of model myself off of, and who I kind of want to direct like. And then, I'm trying to think of other people. I'm a big fan of, who else? I've been watching a lot of Wong Kar-wai, who's like this, I think Chinese filmmaker, and he's great. Actually, Barry Jenkins influenced him a lot, so he's been pretty cool. But yeah, man, I'm kind of across the board. I guess, it kind of depends on the day, really.
Yeah. So what's something that you watched lately, or it doesn't even have to be lately, like a film that you watched that you may, what's your film that you've watched multiple times because you love that film that much?
All right, so my filmmaker answer is probably Do the Right Thing, and that was just a film like that. It was just like a quintessential Black film that, like, when I saw it, I was like, dang, like this is exploring so many things as like a Black guy that like I hadn't seen a lot of mainstream film.
Mm-hmm.
And then like as just a film fan, like growing up, my favorite film was Star Wars. I was just like, I remember going to see those like re-released in theaters when I was a kid, and that was kind of just like what made me love filmmaking, just because it was like a different world, and I was like, man, this is like crazy. It's, stuff that I had never seen. So kind of depends on, if I got to put that filmmaker hat on, then it's Spike. But if it's not, it's Star Wars.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Cool. So tell me, like, what would you say to a filmmaker? Because I know you're a young guy and you're still like in the early part of your journey as a filmmaker. So tell me, but what would you say to someone who has not reached where you are just yet, but are trying to get to the point where they are making their first feature? What type of advice would you give to that person?
I mean, first, if they have the content, then just try to find a way to shoot it. And I know that's like easier said than done, but I feel like a lot of times when you have a feature idea and you're like trying to figure out how to get it shot, it's like, oh, I don't have enough money, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. And those things obviously are important, but if you get any opportunity, I think you need to take that window. I know there's a period of time when we were thinking about shooting it and we had, X amount of budget, and people were like, oh, you got to do it for double that, or you got to do it for more. You got to wait until you get more. And, we ended up just deciding we're just going to go shoot it with what we got and we'll make it work. And funny enough, like if we had waited too much longer, the pandemic would have hit, it probably wouldn't happen. So to me, that was kind of a sign, like you kind of just got to go. And if you feel like you can do it, just do it. I mean, there's always going to be like 3 or 4 excuses why you shouldn't. But I mean, sometimes you just got to make it happen.
Are you working on anything currently?
Yeah, so I have a second feature that's been optioned, and we're trying to figure out how to get it shot in this day and age. But hoping by late this year or early next year we could get that rolling. But yeah, it kind of depends on the way things go.
Yeah. So tell the viewers where they could see Caged Bird, how they can see that film, because I saw the trailer and I'm excited to see the whole thing. So share with us. I know it's going to be premiering at the Pan African Film Festival. How can we get information on how we can see that film?
So you can go to paf.org. They don't have the schedule yet, but that should be coming any day now. But what you can do is you can go to paf.org. You can reserve either a single ticket or you can buy like a pass for the whole festival. So, paf.org, check that out.
All right. Now, where can people find you? Social media, websites, shout all that stuff out.
So website is my name, fredrickleach.com. And Instagram is Fleach S09. So it's my last name, Leach, Leach, S09. And that's across all social media.
All right. Well, Fredrick, I just want to say thank you very much for your time. Thank you for the work that you put into being a filmmaker. I certainly appreciate it. And I wish you nothing but the best with your film and whatever film is next and whatever's next for you. So thank you very much. And,
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, we're going to be looking out for you. We're going to be supporting.
Appreciate that, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, no doubt.